Good afternoon, students. So we're going to continue doing systems of equations, but now we're going to be doing word problems. So basically, how do you use systems of equations when it comes to the real world? So I put a few steps there on the top, but honestly, it's pretty simple. Step one, you have to define your variables. So whatever problem you're looking at, there should always be two things that they want you to find. And then you're just going to say what letter you're going to use for each thing. Oh, sorry. Okay, step two, write your equations. That's probably going to be the hardest part for some of you guys because I know we had trouble writing equations beforehand. Step three is to solve the system using substitution or elimination. So that's what we spent the past 2 weeks learning. So I know there's ways to do it on the calculator. We had menu 3-2, which was LinSolve, or you could graph it. But I specifically want you to use one of these two options that I showed you. And then step four, write the answer in a complete sentence. So no more writing it just as a point, x comma y. I want you to tell me what each number means. So let's just go straight to our examples. I only have two for today. Okay, it says, first one. At an ice cream parlor, one group of friends ordered 4 small servings of ice cream and 5 large servings of ice cream for $38. Another group of friends ordered 2 small servings of ice cream and 4 large servings of ice cream for $28. How much does the ice cream cost? So the easiest way to find out what your variable should be is by looking at the question. So how much does the ice cream cost? That's what your variables have to be. It has to have something to do with the cost of ice cream. But remember I said there's should be two different variables. So what we're going to have is small servings and large servings. See that? Small servings and large servings. So if you want to, you could use X for small, Y for large, or you could use the actual letters, so S for small, L for large. It's up to you. So I'm going to use the actual letters S and L, but I'm going to write it down so I don't forget what I'm doing. So S is going to represent the price of a small serving. And L is going to represent the price for a large serving. Okay, so now I need to write my equations. So if I have two different variables, I need to have two different equations. The nice thing about this problem is that they separated each equation into different sentences. So I'm going to highlight that way you can see what I'm looking at. It says one group of friends ordered 4 small servings of ice cream and 5 large servings of ice cream for $38. That whole part is one equation. Okay, so if I have 4 small servings, and we said that small was going to be S, I'm just going to write that as 4S. And, so and is always plus sign, 5 large servings, so that's going to be 5L. And I paid how much? For $38. So that's it. That's the first equation. 4S plus 5L equals 38. Actually, I'm going to fix that S a little bit. It looks like a 5. Okay. Okay, second equation is going to be the second sentence. So another group of friends ordered 2 small servings of ice cream and 4 large servings of ice creams for $28. So again, just be careful when you're writing your equations. 2 small servings is going to be 2S. And is plus sign. 4 large servings, so 4L, for $28. How much does the ice cream cost? Okay, so basically what I need to solve for is what is S and what is L. So we're solving our system. Now we had two different ways that we learned. we could do either elimination or substitution. So looking at my two equations, the one thing that I notice is that our variables are lined up. See how S is on top of S, L is on top of L. So whenever your variables line up that way, the easiest thing to do is going to be solve by elimination. So I'm going to write that here on the side. We're going to solve using elimination. And that's because our variables lined up. Okay, so since they're lined up, one thing I need to look for is the coefficients in front of the variables. So with the S's, they're not the same. I have 4 and I have 2. For the L's, they're not the same. I have 5 and I have 4. So I need to somehow make one of them be the same. The easiest one that I see is the S's, because 4 is a multiple of 2. I can multiply this second equation by something to make the number in front of S be a 4. So here's what I'm going to do. That first equation, I'm just going to rewrite it. Okay, but the second equation, I want this to become a 4. So I'm going to multiply the whole thing by 2. 2 times 2 is 4, so that's going to give me 4s. And then 2 times 4 is 8, so that'll give me 8l. And then 2 times 28 is 56. So now, not only are the variables lined up, S, S, L, L, I now have a variable that has the same coefficient in both equations. So now I'm going to eliminate the S's because they have the same coefficient. So we're going to eliminate by subtracting. So this whole entire second equation, let's subtract. 4 minus 4 is 0, 0s, but I'm not going to write the 0. Okay, then the L's. 5 minus 8 gives me -3. And then the last part, 38 minus 56, gives me, and that gives us -18. Okay, I'm trying to solve for L. So let's divide by -3. -18 divided by -3. Since they're both negative, it's going to give me a positive. L equals +6. So that's one of them. I still need to go back and figure out what S is. So what I'm going to do is take my first equation, and I'm going to plug in 6 for the L. So let me rewrite the first equation. It was 4s plus 5l equals 38. But instead of L, I'm going to plug in 6 right there. So 4s plus 5 times 6 equals 38. That gives us 4s plus 30 equals 38. It's a two-step equation. We would subtract 30. 4s equals 8. Then divide by 4. So s equals 2. Okay, so I found my two variables, L equals 6, S equals 2. But I want to know exactly what that means for our story problem. Again, what did L stand for and what did S stand for? They stood for the serving of the ice cream. S was for small and L was for large. So we're going to write our answer in a complete sentence. I kind of was writing big, so I'm going to write it down here. But let's say a large serving of ice cream costs how much? Well, L equals 6, so it costs $6. And a small serving costs, right here, $2. Okay, good. Now let's do the second example. Okay, it says, Chris built a rectangular fort with a perimeter of 24 feet. The length of the fort is 8 feet less than 3 times the width. What was the length and width of the fort? So like I said before, it's easiest to look at the question. That way you can tell what the two variables should be. So it's asking you what was the length and width of the fort. Those are my two variables. Let's just use, again, L for length and W for width. Okay, so that's our first step, defining our variables. Second, we need to write our two equations. Okay, so starting at the beginning, it says it has a perimeter of 24 feet. So when you get math problems, they expect you how to find the perimeter of a rectangular fort. So just as a reminder, if I had a rectangle, and this was the width and this was the length, how do I find the perimeter? Okay, so I know some of y'all are going to say length times width, and that's not it. That's the area. If I want perimeter, I need to add up all four sides of the shape. So it'd be width plus length plus another width plus another length. So to make it easier, I would just say there's two lengths plus two of the widths, and altogether they told us that it's 24 feet. So that's our first equation. Second equation, so the length of the fort is 8 feet less than 3 times the width. So it's telling you the length, so start with L, is, anytime you have is, that's an equal sign, 8 feet less than 3 times the width. Anytime you have the word then, you're going to do the second part first. So 3 times the width, well, 3W, 3 times W. And then if I want 8 feet less than that, less means to subtract. So there's my system. Those are my two equations there. Okay, so let's take a look at our equations. So on the first one, the variables lined up. L was on top of L, so we still have that. W on top of W, but you have to be very careful with where the equal sign is. Equal sign is in the front here, equal sign is at the end. So these do not technically match up. So we can still use elimination. We would just have to fix these equations before we could do that. So I want to check to see maybe we can do substitution. Do you remember what to check for substitution? What you want is for one variable to be by itself, which in this case, the second equation, L, is all by itself. So that means for this one, it would be a lot simpler to use substitution. So we learned that about 2 weeks ago, so we might need a little bit of a refresher. But you see how it's telling us that L equals this entire thing, 3W minus 8? So anytime I see an L in the other equation, I could just plug in 3W minus 8. So I'm going to rewrite 2L plus 2W equals 24. But instead of L, we're going to plug in this whole thing. So 2 times 3W minus 8. Then plus 2W equals 24. Do your distribution. 2 times 3 is 6. Then 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. Plus 2W equals 24. Combine your like terms. So I have 6 plus 2 is 8. and I still have minus 16. From here, it's just a two-step equation to solve for W. Let's add 16 to both sides. That gives me 8W equals 40. Divide by 8. So W equals 5. So I found one of my variables, but I still need to go back and solve for the other variable. So basically, I found width, I need to go back and find length. So what I'm going to do is pick any of the equations. I'm going to pick the second one. L equals 3W minus 8. But instead of W, I'm going to plug in 5. Three times 5 is 15. So L equals 7. Okay, so there's my length and my width, L and W. So we're going to write this as a complete sentence. So the rectangular fort, or I'm just going to put the fort, has a width of, so what was our width? It's where the W is, so 5. 5, they said feet, so it should be feet. And a length of 7 feet. And that's our answer. Okay, so this is how you would use solving systems of equations in the real world. If you have any questions, send me an email or a private message through Remind or Google Classroom.